Okay, so now we kind of have an idea of what public speaking looks like. We're going to go through a couple of little things, and I'm going to point out some things that you can do to improve your public speaking. What I notice about most people when they first speak publicly is they don't look at the audience. That's probably because you're a little nervous. But here's a trick for you. Always look at the audience and find someone in the audience who perhaps is smiling. And look at that person. I don't mean stare, because then you're going to look a little crazy. But I want you to focus on them, and every now and then I want you to scan over to look at someone else and then look right back at them. You have to look at your audience because they should be looking at you and you're speaking to them. And when people are speaking, you always pay attention. Another thing I notice that people do when they're starting out is they fidget. Who knows what that is?
Move.
Yes.
They like play with their fingers and play with like random stuff.
Yeah, or they rock back and forth. Fidgeting is another way of being nervous, and I'm going to show you something. For some reason, if you have something in your hand, not an index card that you're reading from, but a pencil maybe, if you have that pencil, the moment you feel like fidgeting, if you squeeze that pencil, you don't move. I have no idea why that works, but it works. You can also take your hands. I know you've seen people on TV when they speak, they're like this. If you know where your hands are, chances are you're not going to be moving around. And you can move your hands, keep them together, but you can move them anytime you feel like you have to move. That's fine. Another thing people do is they stand in one spot and they don't move. That looks nervous, doesn't it? You want to move a little. You don't want to move so much that you make your audience dizzy, but you want to move a little bit to the side, a step or two, keeping your eye contact with your audience. Maybe even trying to make sure your hands are not flying all over the place. And you just want to look from side to side. Try not to stand in one place. You don't have to be perfect. You're not going to always do it. Just try. Practice makes perfect. One thing I noticed is sometimes speakers will make a mistake. And if a speaker makes a mistake, who knows? Do you know? Probably not. Because you don't have a copy of their speech, right? And you haven't read it before. So if a speaker makes a mistake, a speaker generally won't acknowledge it. So if you make a mistake, you don't say, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. What have you just done? You've let your audience know that you made a mistake. What does that do? That takes a little bit of your credibility away from you. And they're going to wonder, does this person really know what they're talking about? So never ever apologize for a mistake. You're going to make them. Everybody makes them. Just keep going with your speech as if you didn't make a mistake at all. Another thing I noticed that people do when they first start speaking is they don't speak loud enough. They have a tendency to speak to themselves or to the person who's right next to them. Can you guys hear me really well? Probably not. What you speak has to be heard. So your aim is to speak loud enough so that the person in the back of the room can hear you without shouting. So always stand straight up. And if you're standing straight up, for some reason your voice comes up through your lungs as you breathe and carries itself throughout the room. Always speak to the person in the back of the room. And another thing you can do is in the back, you can say, can you hear me in the back? If they say yes, then you know you're at the right tone level. We're going to work on something else called speech and voice variation. Now, a variation means that it doesn't stay the same, it changes. And when we speak, naturally, our voice does this. That's the natural flow of a speech. That's also the natural flow of a conversation. Have you ever been in a classroom where maybe the teacher or even another student was giving a recitation of some sort and the tone was just flatline? There was no ups, there was no down, it was just really flat, like a robot. That's a boring tone for your audience, and you're going to lose their attention right away. So we're going to practice vocal variety. Let's just call it variety. I'm going to give you guys an example of a speech, a very short speech with vocal variety. Okay, so I'm making this up off the top of my head, so bear with me. When I was a little girl, I loved to run. I didn't never think I was going to run track, but I ran everywhere. Why did I run everywhere? Because the mean girls in the school used to like to chase me. And they especially liked the part when it was time for me to go home, because in order to get home, I had to cross this huge steel bridge, and the floor of the bridge as you crossed it had holes and you could see through, and you could see the creek going back and forth underneath. On each end of the bridge was an opening where there was no railing, and there was gravel on each side. Everybody knew I was afraid to cross the bridge, and so did the mean girls. So every day after school, they would chase me across the bridge. Now, getting caught by them really was more fearful than crossing the bridge. And I ran and I crossed that bridge each time without realizing I had crossed that bridge. And each day I got home faster than the day before. Now, the mean girls eventually stopped chasing me, but I kept running. I guess they probably thought I was crazy, but I didn't care. And when my coach said, we're going to start a track team, I volunteered. Of course, I had to run to prove that I could, and I turned out to be the fastest runner on the team. So if you think about it, I became a track runner of the 400 meter, that was my specialty, simply because of mean girls. So I guess I'm a little grateful to the mean girls, because if it had not been for them, I might not have realized that I loved running. Okay, now, if you notice the tone of the speech, I didn't talk flat. My voice went up and down. I accentuated, which means I put emphasis on certain words as I spoke. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to give you something to read, and I'm going to ask you to try to practice your vocal variety. Let's see, who wants to do this?
Me.
Earl, you want to come up, please? This little portion right here that says power, that's what I want you to read. Now, I know you won't always be looking at the audience, so every now and then, keep your finger so you know where to start, but glance up. And try to read it so that it's exciting and not boring. Can you do that? All right, here we go.
Power. Power refers to how loudly you speak. Though you should, of course, speak loud enough for everyone to hear you. Changing the power of your voice can cause people to pay more attention. Pay more attention. Power changes convey meanings and emotions.
Right, correct. Okay, so that was an excellent job of variation. His voice was not flat. He accentuated certain words, and he made it sound exciting. Now, I don't know if it's possible to really make power sound exciting, but what do you think? Do you think he did a pretty good job?
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to read another one? Jada. How about you read pitch? You okay with these words? Okay. That is differentiate.
Pitch. Pitch
Differentiates
differentiates high notes and low notes in your voice. Women generally have higher pitched voices than men who have deeper pitched voices. Within everyone's vocal range are higher and lower tones. Use these to express emotion or to differentiate between different characters in your narrative.
That was excellent. We have a word we use today, differentiate, and that word means to show the difference between. It comes from the stem word different, and everybody knows what different means. So to differentiate is to show what's different from one thing. That was excellent. Who wants to read another? You want to read? Come on up. Be careful of the cord. Okay, you're going to read pace. Are you okay with the words? Nervous, yes. Okay? All right. Make it sound exciting.
Pace. Pace is the speed at which you speak. Speaking too fast is a common problem, usually caused by nervousness. This is where practicing your speech in front of others or a video camera can help verifying varying the pace of your speech can add interest like power and pitch. It can raise the drama in story when you talk faster. It can help concepts sink in when you talk slower.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so now that kind of covers what vocal variety is. Why do you think it's important? Earl?
To make the speech not sound boring and make it sound exciting.
Yes, and it also grabs the attention of the audience. If someone in the audience is mildly listening but preoccupied by something else, the tone of your voice sometimes brings them right back into attention and they pay attention. We notice things that change, and our variety of our voice changes in our speaking, and that keeps the audience not alert, but in a way where they can pay attention to us. We're going to talk about, this one might be cute. This one is gestures. Why do I keep putting it? Okay, this one is gestures. What are gestures? Yes, Dana?
It's like something that you might use to like say hello to somebody or say goodbye to somebody.
Yeah, like, hi, that's a gesture. Or come here, that's a gesture. Or look at this board, that's a gesture. Something else is a gesture. What if you had to give a demonstration on the proper way to eat an apple? Everything you did is a gesture. Right up to the peeling of the apple, the slicing of the apple, actually biting the apple, chewing the apple, and yes, even swallowing the apple. They are all gestures. Most speeches that have to do with gestures specifically are speeches that show the audience how to do something. For instance, on TV, we have a lot of cooking shows. Has anybody ever seen a cooking show on TV?
Yes, ma'am.
There's a lot of gestures there, simply because they show you the food they're making, they show you how they're cutting up the food. You see everything. Speeches that show you how to do something are mostly the top ones that are used for gestures. But you can use gestures in your regular speaking, and you can use it simply, very simply, because when you talk about something, and I'm going to watch my hands because my hands are gestures, and my facial expression is also a gesture. When you talk about something, like I was walking down the street on Halloween and someone jumped out in front of me and scared me. I was really ready to run, but I chose not to. And when I turned around, it was just my brother. Gestures are expressions. Gestures also include when you're speaking about something that's exciting, your face should look exciting. When you're speaking about something that makes you sad, chances are your face is also going to look sad. Gestures are easy. We do them every day, but we don't always know we're doing it. It's hard to do when you're speaking about something that you don't know because you have to practice the gesture as you're speaking. You're going to get an opportunity to create a speech, and it's going to use vocal variety and gestures. And this is what you're going to do. I'm not going to tell you what to write about. You can write about anything in the world you choose to write about. I suggest that you write about something that's fun to you, something you like to do, something that's very interesting, and something that you've done several times and you know a lot about. So think about what those things are, and we're going to let you write your speech. But this time, you're going to write it on paper. I will walk around helping you guys with your speech. If you need help with titles, if you need help to fill it in. And I'm going to tell you something about speeches. A speech has 3 parts. Earl, do you remember the 3 parts of a speech? You got it?
Nope. Don't let fear.
No, the 3 parts. Let me help you. I'm going to start you out. We have the heading or the intro. That's the way you start your speech. It's the first thing you do when you get up there. A lot of people will tell a joke or they may ask the question, but you start with your heading. Your speech has a body, and that's the second part.
And an end.
And an end. The body is where you have almost all of your information about your speech. It holds a lot of details. The body is important, but so is the heading and the end. The heading is how you start out, but the end is how you finish. And an end could be to summarize what I just told you I did, and you can name some things that you did. It's not hard to do, but a speech must have 3 parts. And it needs a title. So I'll be walking around the room helping you guys with these parts of your speech.